Alien general freaks out. You took human children. Inside one of the largest transports, soldiers of the Krelthian fleet went about their routine. They were tall, with gray skin and sharp eyes, and they moved with mechanical precision. Among them, the transport commander watched the ship's screens and checked reports from the lower decks. Nothing worried him. He believed humans were weak, soft creatures, incapable of resistance. Humans were far below the might of the Krelthians. Deep in the lower hold, in a section the soldiers rarely visited, a small group of human children huddled together. Their ages ranged from 7 to 12 years. They were quiet at first, scared of the strange gray shapes that walked the hallways. Their eyes, wide and alert, took in every detail of the ship, every shadow, every movement. The youngest, a girl named Claire, clutched the arm of an older boy, Ryan, who tried to make her smile. The oldest, a boy named David, whispered plans to the others. He told them to stay calm, to watch the guards, and to remember every sound. The aliens did not notice the children much. The transport was carrying soldiers, supplies, and a few prisoners from border colonies. Humans were considered just another minor species, not worth their attention. The guards walked past the holding area without looking down. The children watched silently, learning the patterns of their captors. Every few minutes, a guard would pause and speak in the Krelthian language, but the children could not understand. Still, they listened carefully. The rhythm of the guards' movements, the timing of their patrols, everything became a part of the children's plan. They were young, but they were not helpless. Far across the galaxy, on a small human colony, the news of the missing children reached the council. Captain Ethan Brooks, a man in his early 30s with short brown hair and steady eyes, stood in the command room of a small human vessel. Beside him was Lieutenant Lisa Morgan, sharp-minded and brave. Both stared at the screen showing the border colony, now empty of its young inhabitants. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had served in many conflicts, but nothing disturbed him like the thought of children in alien hands. "They cannot take them alive," Ethan said quietly. Lisa placed a hand on his shoulder. She knew his heart raced, but she also knew the plan had to be careful. Humans did not have the ships or weapons of the Krelthians, but they had courage, strategy, and the will to protect their own. They would not fail. Ethan turned back to the council display. "We launch tonight," he said. "We do what they think we cannot." Back on the alien transport, the children began to understand their surroundings. Claire, the youngest, had a quiet courage that surprised everyone. She noticed the lights in the corridors flickered in a pattern and pointed it out to David and Ryan. They realized the guards relied on sensors that followed light patterns, which meant timing could be predicted. They whispered to each other, planning small movements that would keep them unnoticed. The children were afraid, yes, but fear had sharpened their minds. They were learning the alien ship better than any soldier realized. Meanwhile, General Krelth, the alien leader of this transport, sat in his command chamber. He was a large figure, far taller than the average Krelthian, with ridges along his skull and eyes that glowed faintly red. Reports had come in about the captured humans. He read them calmly. Humans were fragile. They were soft. Taking a few from a colony was of no consequence. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his claws on the table. He had won many battles and had never feared a human, and he saw no reason to start now. "They are children," he told his officers. "They are nothing to us." But inside the hold, the children were already making small acts of defiance. They moved quietly, staying behind crates, whispering to each other, and learning when guards would stop for a pause. Even the smallest movement was planned. Ryan carried a small notebook, sketching patterns he noticed, marking times and sounds. David encouraged the younger ones, whispering that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Claire, holding her doll, nodded and listened. She may have been small, but her mind worked fast. The children were learning from each other, forming a small team that could think faster than any alien expected from such young humans. Back in human space, Ethan and Lisa reviewed star maps. The route to the transport's location was dangerous. Krelthian patrols filled the area, and their fleet could detect any ship moving too fast or too close. Lisa studied the sensors. "They will expect a straight attack," she said. "We will not give it to them." Ethan nodded. Humans relied on ingenuity, and they would use every trick to reach the children before the aliens realized. They loaded small shuttlecraft with supplies and equipment designed to evade detection. Every step was precise, every plan rehearsed in quiet commands. Meanwhile, aboard the alien ship, the children grew bolder. David discovered that some of the aliens did not move in perfect rhythm, small errors in their patrols. He whispered to Ryan, "If we move at the wrong second, we are safe." Claire found that she could mimic some of the alien sounds, enough to distract a guard briefly. The children smiled faintly at these small victories. They were scared, yes, but fear was not stopping them from acting. Even in a ship full of towering aliens, they had small ways to survive. On the transport bridge, Krelthian officers were discussing minor issues. Reports of humans were read and ignored. None expected the humans to resist. None considered that the children might learn, adapt, or even inspire others to act. General Krelth leaned back, eyes half closed, convinced this would be a simple mission. He did not notice the flicker of movement in the lower hold, nor the careful observation by the children. He did not see that humans were not like any other species he had faced. Even as he planned the rest of his day, a small seed of concern could have begun, but it remained dormant. Humans were weak. Children were weaker. Nothing to worry about. As the human fleet moved closer, Ethan and Lisa prepared for the final approach. Every crew member knew the stakes. These were not soldiers, but children, and they needed to be rescued alive. Ethan looked at the stars outside the ship window, thinking of the young faces he had seen in the reports. He promised silently to bring them back. Lisa checked the shuttle controls, ensuring the escape route would be clear. Humans were outnumbered, yes, but not outsmarted. They had one advantage the aliens could never measure: the courage to protect the innocent. In the hold, the children prepared for what might come. They had no weapons, no ships, nothing but their courage and wits. David whispered, "We stick together, we follow the plan, and we survive." Claire nodded. Even the youngest understood the meaning. Fear was strong, but humans could be stronger. Ryan smiled faintly. The children huddled together, ready to face what they could not yet see. In the dark corridors of an alien warship, hope glimmered in small human hearts. The stars outside continued to shine, indifferent to the struggles inside the ships. The aliens thought themselves in control. Humans thought they were powerless. But the galaxy had never seen the full measure of human courage. One small act, one clever plan, one brave heart could change the path of countless lives. The story was only beginning, and already the first cracks in the alien certainty had appeared. The human fleet moved closer to the alien transport. Captain Ethan Brooks watched the screens, his eyes sharp. Every sensor reading was checked twice, every calculation done carefully. Lieutenant Lisa Morgan stood beside him, her fingers hovering over the control panel. The human ships were small, fast, and light. Compared to the massive Krelthian warships, they seemed fragile, almost powerless. But Ethan knew strength was not only in size. Courage, strategy, and quick thinking could turn the tide. He glanced at Lisa and nodded. They both knew this mission was dangerous. They also knew it was necessary. The children had to be rescued alive. Back aboard the alien transport, the children had grown more confident. David kept watch near the doorway, listening to the guard's footsteps. Ryan continued sketching the patrol paths, noting every pause and every sound. Claire, despite being the youngest, began to copy small sounds she had heard from the aliens. Sometimes she could distract a guard just long enough to move a few steps closer to safety. The children whispered to each other constantly, planning small steps to stay out of sight. They were scared, yes, but fear had sharpened their minds. Each day on the alien ship made them braver, stronger in ways the aliens could not see. One of the alien guards, a younger soldier named Krellin, began to notice something strange. He had been assigned to patrol near the children, and he started to feel a small sense of unease. The children did not scream, they did not panic, and they did not behave like any human he had seen before. He watched as David calmly adjusted a crate to block a sensor, as Claire made a soft sound to draw attention, and as Ryan quietly recorded movements. The aliens were trained for war, but these humans were different. They were quiet, clever, and determined. Krellin felt a twinge of fear, but he did not report it. He did not want to admit that humans might be stronger than he expected. Far away, Ethan and Lisa prepared the shuttles for the rescue. They had spent weeks designing small crafts to avoid alien sensors. The plan was simple but risky. Human teams would board the transport through small airlocks, avoid the main corridors, and reach the children before the Krelthians could respond. Every crew member knew the mission could fail. The children's lives depended on their skill and courage. Ethan took a deep breath and reminded himself that humans had always survived against impossible odds. They had to succeed. Failure was not an option. The human fleet approached the transport slowly, using shadows from nearby asteroids and space debris to hide their movement. Lisa piloted the lead shuttle, weaving carefully to avoid alien detection. Sensors beeped quietly, and every movement was tense. The small shuttles moved like shadows, silent and nearly invisible. Ethan watched from the main human ship, tracking every move. The children's fate rested on these small ships and the courage of every person aboard. Inside the alien transport, the children began to prepare for what might happen. David whispered instructions. "We stay calm, we follow the plan, we move only when the guards are not looking." Ryan nodded, showing his sketches of the patrol patterns to the others. Claire held her doll tightly but listened carefully. Even the youngest understood the plan. Their fear had not disappeared, but it had changed. Fear now pushed them to act, to be clever, and to survive. The alien soldiers could not understand this. They assumed humans were fragile and weak, but the children were proving them wrong, quietly and without weapons. Meanwhile, Krelth, the alien general, sat in his command chamber. He received reports about small movements in the lower hold, but he dismissed them. Humans did not resist, and children were harmless. His officers assured him nothing was wrong. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his claws on the table. He had won battles across the galaxy, captured colonies, and broken entire fleets. A few human children were nothing to him. He smiled faintly, certain of victory. Yet deep down, a small sense of unease began to stir. He could not explain it, and he ignored it. Humans were soft, weak, and predictable. That was enough. The first human shuttle reached the transport's shadow side. Ethan watched as Lisa piloted the craft carefully, aligning it with a small maintenance hatch. The plan was to enter quietly, avoid the main corridors, and reach the children before the aliens could react. The boarding team prepared, checking tools, weapons, and devices designed to disable security measures for just a short time. Every step had to be precise. Failure meant death, not just for the rescuers but for the children. The air was tense, every breath filled with anticipation. Back in the lower hold, the children noticed the faint vibrations of the alien ship's hull. The small lights flickered as the engines adjusted their speed. David whispered to the others, "Something is coming. Stay close and follow my lead." Claire nodded, holding tightly to Ryan's sleeve. The children moved quietly, keeping to shadows and behind crates. They had no weapons, no real tools, only courage and the small, clever tricks they had learned in the past days. The alien guards passed near them, unaware of the quiet preparation taking place right under their eyes. The boarding team entered the transport through the maintenance hatch. The first human steps were silent but tense. Ethan and Lisa coordinated the movements, guiding the team through small corridors. Alien sensors blinked and scanned, but the humans had studied their patterns carefully. Every step had been rehearsed. The boarding team moved with quiet precision, aware that any mistake could alert the aliens. The children's lives depended on their speed and skill. Fear was strong, but determination was stronger. Human ingenuity was at work. Krellin, the young alien guard, noticed a strange movement near the hold. He saw shadows moving against the walls and faint signals that made no sense. He froze, unsure what he was seeing. He wanted to report it, but he hesitated. Humans did not act like this. These children were different. Small humans, yes, but clever, patient, and brave. He did not understand it, and that made him uneasy. His uncertainty grew as he watched the shadows move in perfect timing with no noise, almost as if the children were guided by some unseen force. He felt fear for the first time in his life. The human boarding team reached the lower hold. The doors opened quietly and they moved in careful formation. David saw them first. He signaled to the other children, whispering instructions. "Follow me. Stay low. Do not make a sound." Claire, Ryan, and the others followed, their small hands holding tight to each other. The boarding team approached carefully, using minimal light and silent steps. The children's hope rose as they saw the humans. Safety was not yet complete, but the first step had been taken. Courage had won a small victory. Krelthian soldiers began to notice unusual movements. One guard reported minor sensor anomalies, but Krelth waved him off. Humans were fragile. Children were even more so. The general's confidence remained. He did not yet see the danger forming around him. He continued planning the rest of the mission, unaware that the humans were already inside, moving toward the most precious cargo he had taken, the human children. The boarding team made contact with the children. David whispered instructions to move quickly but quietly. The team used small devices to disable temporary sensors along the path. Every step had been planned. Claire and the others followed carefully. Fear was strong, but bravery stronger. Each child moved with courage, trusting the humans guiding them. Even the aliens could not understand the determination in these small hearts. Human courage was not something they could measure or predict. Ethan and Lisa monitored the operation closely. Every signal was checked, every anomaly watched. The human fleet remained hidden, ready to act if anything went wrong. The mission was delicate. One wrong move and the aliens would respond with overwhelming force. But humans had never relied on size or weapons alone. Strategy, timing, and courage were their strengths. Lisa smiled faintly. They were human, and humans did not give up. The first obstacles appeared as the team moved toward the main holding area. Alien guards began minor patrols near the corridors. The children froze each time, hearts pounding. David whispered directions, Ryan followed quickly, and Claire stayed calm, mimicking the sound she had learned. Small distractions were enough to allow the group to move past the patrols safely. Aliens were powerful, yes, but they had never faced such quiet intelligence and courage from tiny humans. The boarding team and children moved like shadows, unseen, unheard, and unstoppable in their determination. Inside the command chamber, Krelth received more reports of anomalies. He frowned but reassured himself. Humans were soft. Children were even softer. Nothing could go wrong, yet he felt a strange tension building in the ship. His instincts, trained over decades of battle, told him something was off. He ignored it. Humans could not pose a real threat. He was confident. Overconfidence, however, would soon become a problem. The galaxy was about to witness human courage in action. Outside the alien ship, the human fleet adjusted positions. Shuttles remained hidden in the shadows, ready to extract the boarding team and children. Ethan spoke quietly to Lisa, "We are close. Every step counts. Do not let them see us yet." Lisa nodded, her eyes fixed on the screens. Every crew member understood the stakes. They had trained for years for impossible missions. This was one of the hardest, but humans were never truly powerless. Courage, will, and cleverness were their greatest weapons. Inside the lower hold, the boarding team reached the area where the children had been held. They quickly assessed the situation, checking for sensors and patrol routes. David guided the younger ones carefully, while the team disabled minor security measures. Every movement was deliberate. Claire smiled faintly, understanding that rescue was near. Fear was still there, but determination was stronger. The aliens had underestimated humans, and the children were proving why bravery could overcome even the greatest power. Krellan, the young alien guard, observed silently from a distance. He could not explain what he saw, but it troubled him deeply. Humans, especially these children, were clever, brave, and quiet in ways the Krelthians could not measure. He felt unease growing in his chest. For the first time, he questioned the mission. For the first time, he wondered if humans were truly weak. A seed of fear had taken root, though he dared not show it. The galaxy was about to teach the Krelthians a lesson they would not forget. The first contact was made. David led the children to the boarding team, moving silently through the shadows. Small lights from the human tools illuminated the path just enough to see without alerting the aliens. Ryan carried supplies quietly, while Claire kept close to the others. The boarding team smiled faintly. The children were brave, clever, and calm. Their courage was inspiring. Even the alien soldiers would not understand the strength of human hearts. The first step toward rescue had been taken. Fear was strong, but hope and courage were stronger. Humans were never as weak as others thought. The human boarding team moved quickly but carefully through the corridors of the alien transport. Every step was planned, every sound measured. The children followed closely, trusting the humans completely. David led them, whispering instructions, guiding them around corners, and making sure they stayed hidden from the alien guards. Ryan carried small tools and devices, ready to disable sensors when needed. Claire held onto the hand of a human soldier, her small face serious but brave. The fear inside them was strong, but courage pushed them forward. They had no weapons, only cleverness and determination. The aliens had never faced humans like this before. Outside, Captain Ethan Brooks monitored the mission from the human ship. The small fleet remained hidden, using asteroids and debris for cover. The shuttles had approached the transport undetected, and now every movement inside the alien ship was critical. Ethan spoke quietly to Lisa Morgan. "If we lose them now, we lose everything. We cannot let fear control them." Lisa nodded. "They are stronger than we are giving them credit for. They are humans," she said, "and humans never give up." Ethan allowed himself a faint smile. Courage was not only in the children, it was in every human who refused to give up, even when facing impossible odds. Inside the lower hold, the boarding team reached the first major obstacle, a large security door. It was guarded by two alien soldiers, moving in a predictable rhythm. David whispered to the children, "Stay behind the crates, watch my signal, do not move until I say." Ryan prepared the small device that could temporarily disable the door's sensors. Claire's eyes widened, but she nodded. The plan was simple but risky. The aliens were strong and fast. One mistake could alert the entire ship. The humans moved with precision, and the children followed without hesitation. David signaled, and Ryan activated the device. The sensors blinked off for a brief moment. The boarding team rushed forward, moving silently past the guards. The children followed quickly, staying low and hidden. One of the aliens looked up, sensing movement but too late. The humans had already passed. The children breathed quietly, hearts pounding, but their courage held. Even the smallest human could face fear when survival demanded it. The aliens had underestimated the power of human bravery and quick thinking. Krelth, the alien general, was in his command chamber. He still believed the humans posed no real threat. Reports of minor anomalies were dismissed. Humans were weak. Children were weaker. Yet he could not ignore the small unease growing in his mind. Something was not right. He did not yet know it, but the boarding team had entered the ship. His confidence remained, but a small twinge of worry began to take root. Human courage was a strange thing, unpredictable and dangerous in its own way. As the humans moved deeper into the ship, the children began to show their own cleverness. Claire noticed a guard's footsteps changed slightly, signaling he would pause for a moment. She whispered to David. He adjusted their path. Ryan kept track of the patterns, marking small notes in his notebook. Even the smallest actions mattered. The children were helping without knowing how powerful their courage and intelligence truly were. The aliens could not see it, and that made every step easier for the boarding team. Human minds worked in ways the aliens did not understand. The first alarm rang in a distant corridor, caused by a careless alien officer. Ethan noticed it on the ship's sensors. "They've triggered something," he said quietly. Lisa looked at him, tense but calm. "We keep going. They are already inside. The children are safe if we move fast." The shuttles remained hidden, ready to extract the team when the time came. The human fleet could not fight the alien ships directly, but clever maneuvers and courage could save the children. Strategy and timing were stronger than raw power in this mission. The boarding team reached the section where the children had been held. The room was empty now, but small clues showed where the aliens had placed sensors. David studied the floor, noting the lines of light from the sensors. "Follow me exactly. One step at a time," he whispered. Claire, holding her doll tightly, nodded. Ryan stayed close, ready to block the sensors with small devices. The human soldiers moved ahead, creating a path for the children. Even in the darkest corners of the alien ship, courage shone brightly. Humans were small, yes, but unstoppable when protecting the innocent. One of the aliens, Krellin, had followed silently, suspicious of the strange movements. He observed the boarding team and the children, growing more confused and fearful. Humans did not act like any species he had ever known. They were small, clever, and brave in ways the aliens could not measure. He felt his confidence slipping. He wanted to report it, but fear kept him silent. Humans were not fragile. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability terrified him more than any weapon could. The boarding team reached the next obstacle, a narrow corridor filled with patrolling guards. David whispered instructions to the children. "Stay close. Move quietly. Do not look at them." Claire followed closely behind Ryan, her small hands gripping tightly. The humans used small devices to block sensors temporarily, and the children moved through like shadows. One guard turned suddenly, but Ethan's team created a small distraction, allowing the group to pass safely. Fear was high, but courage and careful planning were stronger than panic. Human bravery overcame even the most dangerous situations. Far above, in the alien bridge, Krelth finally noticed minor anomalies on his sensors. Something was moving in places it should not. He frowned, feeling a strange tension growing in his chest. "Check the lower hold again," he ordered. His officers assured him it was nothing, but Krelth felt unease. Humans were weak, yes, but he had seen something today that disturbed him. He could not explain it yet, but something was wrong. He dismissed it as a minor issue, unaware that humans had already entered the heart of his ship and were moving toward the most precious cargo he had taken, the children. The boarding team finally reached the room where the children had been confined. Ethan and Lisa coordinated with the team, signaling that the extraction point was near. David guided the children carefully, Ryan watched for guards, and Claire remained calm despite her fear. The humans created a clear path to the exit hatch. The children had learned patience, courage, and cleverness. Every small act of bravery mattered. The aliens did not understand this strength. They assumed humans were fragile, but in truth, they were unstoppable when protecting the innocent. As the team moved toward the exit, alarms began to sound in nearby sections. An alien guard had discovered an empty sensor field and sounded a warning. Krelth's officers rushed to respond, moving faster than before. Krelth frowned, his confidence shaken. Humans were supposed to be powerless. Children were supposed to be helpless. Yet the boarding team was moving with precision, evading detection and guiding the children safely. Something was wrong. He could not yet see it, but fear began to creep into his mind. Human courage was a force he had never faced. The children moved quickly, staying low and following every instruction. David whispered encouragement. "Almost there. Stay close." Claire followed carefully, her small hands gripping tightly. Ryan stayed alert, ready to handle any obstacle. The boarding team moved like shadows, guiding them to the extraction point. Every moment was tense, every breath filled with anticipation. Fear was strong, but courage was stronger. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they were facing them again now. The children were learning what it meant to be brave. Krellin, the young alien guard, observed from a distance, still confused and fearful. He had never seen humans act like this. They were clever, brave, and silent in ways that made no sense to him. He wanted to intervene, but he hesitated. Something in him knew that these humans could not be stopped easily. For the first time, he questioned his orders. Humans were unpredictable, and that made them dangerous. The young guard felt fear rise in his chest. He did not understand why, but he knew the humans were not as weak as the aliens thought. The boarding team reached the extraction point. A small hatch led to the human shuttle waiting outside the transport. Ethan and Lisa coordinated from the ship, guiding the team carefully. The children moved through the hatch one by one, following the instructions of David and the soldiers. Claire hesitated for a moment, but a gentle hand guided her forward. She took a deep breath and moved, courage stronger than fear. One by one, the children entered the shuttle, leaving the alien transport behind. Human bravery had won the first battle. Inside the human shuttle, the team closed the hatch and prepared to leave. Ethan monitored the path, making sure no aliens had detected them. Lisa piloted the craft carefully, moving toward the human ship hidden nearby. The children sat quietly, exhausted but safe. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and they had survived. Every small act of bravery, every careful step, had brought them closer to safety. The aliens had underestimated humans, and it had cost them. Courage, cleverness, and determination had triumphed. Back on the alien transport, Krelth finally realized what had happened. The boarding team had entered, and the children had been taken from their hold. His confidence shattered. He could not believe that humans, especially children, had evaded his guards and reached safety. Panic began to rise among his officers. Alarms sounded throughout the ship, but it was too late. The humans had acted faster, smarter, and braver than the aliens had ever expected. Krelth's mind raced. Humans were not weak. Children were not helpless, and he had just learned this the hardest way. Ethan and Lisa guided the shuttle safely away from the alien transport. The children sat quietly, holding each other, some still trembling from fear. David smiled faintly, proud of their courage. Ryan adjusted the supplies, making sure everything was secure. Claire hugged her doll tightly, exhausted but safe. The boarding team shared quiet smiles, knowing the first stage of the mission had succeeded. Humans had faced impossible odds and survived. Courage, intelligence, and determination had won. The aliens had learned a small but important lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated. The stars outside continued to shine, indifferent to the struggles of the ships below. Humans were small and fragile compared to the massive alien fleet, yet they had acted with bravery and cleverness that the aliens could not predict. The children had survived, guided by human soldiers who refused to give up. Krelth, The alien general sat in his chamber, shaking with disbelief. Humans were not weak. Humans were clever, brave, and unstoppable when protecting their own. And the galaxy would soon learn that lesson. Whether the Krelthians liked it or not, the human shuttle moved swiftly through the shadows of space, carrying the children safely away from the alien transport. Ethan Brooks watched the sensors carefully, ensuring that the alien patrols had not detected them. Lisa Morgan piloted with calm precision, weaving between small asteroids and debris to avoid the massive sensors of the Krelthian fleet. The children sat quietly, exhausted and trembling but alive. Their courage had carried them this far. Even the youngest, Claire, had kept her fear in check, following the careful instructions of David and Ryan. Humans had shown the aliens what they could not predict: bravery and cleverness in its purest form. Back on the alien transport, alarms blared through the corridors. General Krelth's massive figure shook slightly as he read the reports. The humans had entered his ship, bypassed his guards, and reached the lower hold where the children were kept. His confidence, once so solid, now wavered. He had underestimated humans. He had underestimated their courage and intelligence. He slammed a clawed hand on the table, making his officers flinch. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Children, human children, they are gone." His voice trembled slightly, a sound rarely heard in the halls of the Krelthian command. Panic began to grow where certainty had ruled. The officers around him spoke quickly, offering explanations that sounded weak even to their own ears. One suggested that humans might have sent small boarding craft. Another said it was impossible to track them because of interference. Krelth shook his head. His mind raced. Humans were supposed to be fragile. Children were supposed to be helpless. Yet here they were, alive and beyond his reach. The alien general's fear grew. He had never lost control so quickly. The thought that humans could act with courage and cleverness had never crossed his mind. Now it was undeniable. Humans were dangerous, far more dangerous than he had believed. Inside the human shuttle, Ethan spoke quietly to the boarding team. "We are not safe yet. They will respond quickly. We need to move to a safe distance before they can pursue." Lisa nodded, her fingers moving over the controls with precision. The children clung to each other, their small hands shaking, but they were alive. David whispered quietly to the others, "We made it this far. Keep calm. Our courage has carried us here, and it will carry us further." Even in fear, the children understood that courage was stronger than panic. The humans around them smiled faintly, knowing the mission had not yet ended, but the first victory had been won. The Krelthian fleet began to respond. Massive warships adjusted their course, moving toward the last known location of the shuttle. Krelth's officers attempted to calculate the humans' path, but human cunning had made the pattern unpredictable. Krelth's confidence faded as he realized that humans could act beyond logic and expectation. They were not predictable. They were clever, brave, and willing to risk everything for what they valued. The thought shook him more than any weapon could. He shouted again, his voice echoing through the bridge, "You took human children." The words spread quickly among the alien officers. The realization that humans could act to protect their young sent ripples of fear across the ship. Krelth's panic grew as he watched the communications channels fill with reports of failed sensor sweeps, unmapped routes, and missing targets. Humans had moved faster, acted smarter, and used courage where the aliens had only expected weakness. The general's mind struggled to comprehend the unexpected strength of a species he had always dismissed. Humans were not fragile. They were unstoppable when defending their own. Outside, the human fleet moved carefully, staying hidden behind the shadows of asteroids and cosmic debris. Ethan watched as the alien patrols searched for the shuttle, but their massive size and slower movement made them easy to avoid. Lisa piloted with precision, keeping the shuttle in a path that could not be easily traced. The children's small faces looked toward the windows, watching the stars. Fear still lingered, but it was mixed with awe. They had survived impossible odds. Their courage had carried them past danger and back towards safety. The humans had shown that even the smallest and youngest could be brave beyond measure. Back inside the alien transport, General Krelth's panic spread. He could no longer command with confidence. His officers moved quickly, issuing orders that contradicted each other. One suggested sending fighter ships after the shuttle. Another suggested sealing sections of the transport. Krelth's mind raced, unable to prioritize. He had never faced humans who could act with such daring, who could evade and survive despite overwhelming odds. His fear became a weakness, and the officers around him sensed it. The command structure began to falter. Humans were teaching them a lesson that would not be forgotten. Inside the shuttle, David whispered to the children, "We are close to safety. Stay calm. Fear is natural, but courage guides us." Claire nodded, still holding her doll tightly. Ryan adjusted the small device that had blocked sensors during their escape. The boarding team worked with quiet precision, guiding the children through the shadows of space. Ethan and Lisa coordinated from the ship, keeping the fleet ready to respond to any alien pursuit. Fear was strong, but courage was stronger. Humans had shown this before, and they were showing it again now. Krelth's panic increased as reports came in from multiple sections of the ship. Humans had acted faster than anticipated. The children were safe. The boarding team had exited the ship. His officers scrambled, trying to contain the situation, but it was too late. The general realized that humans were not a species to be underestimated. Even children, small and unarmed, could inspire courage, intelligence, and quick action that could defeat planning, strength, and technology. Krelth's fear became visible. He shouted again, "You took human children." The words carried across the bridge and the corridors, echoing fear and disbelief. The human fleet reached a safer distance, allowing the shuttle to dock with the main ship. Ethan watched the children carefully as they exited the shuttle. Their faces were tired, pale, and shaken, but alive. Claire hugged David, her small body trembling but her eyes shining with relief. Ryan smiled faintly, proud of their courage. The boarding team helped the children safely onto the human ship. Every small act of bravery had contributed to this moment. Humans had survived the impossible, guided by courage and quick thinking. Krelth watched from his command chamber, unable to respond effectively. His officers reported failures, but their words did little to calm him. Humans were not fragile. Children were not helpless. The boarding team had acted with courage, intelligence, and precision that he could not anticipate. The panic inside him was complete. For the first time in his life, he felt that humans were a species that could not be controlled, that could not be easily defeated, and that could strike fear into even the mightiest of alien generals. The lesson had been learned. The galaxy would remember it. Inside the human ship, the children were given food, water, and blankets. Ethan and Lisa stayed close, speaking quietly to calm their fears. David whispered to the others, reminding them that courage had guided them, and it would continue to guide them in the future. Claire rested her head on a blanket, exhausted but relieved. Ryan checked the supplies, ensuring that everything was ready for any further action. The humans had survived, and their courage had shown its power. Even the youngest had faced fear with bravery, showing that courage was not measured by size or age. The alien fleet remained in disarray. Krelth's officers argued, trying to restore order. The general's mind raced, struggling to understand what had happened. Humans had acted in ways the aliens could not predict. Children had survived, guided by courage and intelligence. The aliens had underestimated the humans, and the cost of that mistake had been immediate. Fear had replaced confidence. Panic had replaced planning. And the humans, small and clever, had already escaped. The lesson was clear. Human courage was a force that could not be ignored, even by the mightiest alien generals. Ethan and Lisa coordinated the next steps. The human fleet moved carefully, ensuring the children were safe from any further alien pursuit. Every member of the crew understood the significance of what had happened. Humans had acted with courage, cleverness, and precision. The children had survived against overwhelming odds. The aliens had been forced to acknowledge the strength of human hearts. Even in fear, the humans remained calm, determined, and ready for whatever might come next. Their bravery had become a beacon of hope and power. Krelth, shaken and pale, struggled to regain control. He realized that human courage could not be contained, that children could inspire action beyond expectation, and that fear could spread even in the hearts of the strongest. He shouted again, his voice echoing through the command chamber, "You took human children." It was not just anger, it was disbelief, fear, and the first recognition of human strength. The aliens could not understand it fully, but they felt it. Humans had shown them that courage, cleverness, and bravery could overcome even the most advanced technology and the most powerful generals. The human ship moved further into safe space. The children were exhausted but alive. Ethan spoke quietly to them. "You have shown great courage. Never forget it." David nodded, understanding that their bravery had saved them all. Claire hugged her doll tightly, but a small smile appeared on her tired face. Ryan adjusted the supplies and smiled faintly. They had survived the impossible. Humans had shown the aliens their true strength: courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act for those they loved. The galaxy had begun to see what humans could do when faced with danger. Krelth's panic continued to spread through the alien transport. Officers tried to restore order, but the damage was done. The humans had acted with precision, bravery, and intelligence that could not be predicted. Children had survived, guided by courage and quick thinking. The general's confidence was gone. Fear had taken its place. The lesson was clear. Humans, no matter their size or age, were not to be underestimated. Courage could overcome fear, cleverness could overcome planning, and bravery could defeat even the strongest enemies. Humans had shown this truth in the most undeniable way. The human fleet moved steadily away from the alien transport, carrying the children safely toward human space. Ethan Brooks monitored the fleet, watching for any sign of pursuit. Lisa Morgan piloted with care, keeping the shuttles within shadows and behind space debris. The children, still exhausted, looked out at the stars. Fear lingered in their eyes, but hope and relief were stronger. Claire clutched her doll, David whispered quietly to Ryan, and the smallest ones leaned against each other for comfort. They had survived what no one expected. Their courage had carried them through danger, and it would carry them home. Back on the alien transport, General Krelth struggled to regain control. His officers rushed to report, but their words offered no comfort. The humans had escaped. The children were gone. Panic spread through the command bridge. Krelth slammed his claws on the table, shaking the room. "They are safe," he shouted in disbelief. "Human children, they are safe." Officers stammered, trying to explain, but no explanation satisfied him. Humans had acted in ways no Krelthian could predict. Children had survived against trained soldiers and advanced technology. The general's pride and confidence were shattered. Fear replaced certainty, and the alien transport was left in chaos. Inside the human ship, Ethan gathered the children and the boarding team. He spoke quietly, calmly, but with strong presence. "We are safe for now. You have all been brave, clever, and careful. Never forget this courage. It has carried you through danger." The children listened closely. David, the oldest, nodded, understanding that their actions had mattered. Claire looked up, eyes wide but shining. Ryan smiled faintly, proud of what they had accomplished. The boarding team helped them settle, gave them water and blankets, and reminded them that fear was natural, but courage could always guide them. Outside, the alien fleet had slowed, unsure of the humans' path. Krelthian ships were massive and powerful, but they could not predict where the humans would go. Sensors scanned endlessly, but the humans were too clever, too small, and too determined to be caught. Ethan and Lisa coordinated the fleet, using shadows and clever maneuvers to avoid detection. The aliens could not comprehend the precision of human planning, the bravery of their soldiers, or the courage of the children. The humans had turned fear into action, weakness into strength, and small numbers into unstoppable force. Krelth's officers tried to explain what had happened, but their words did little to calm the general. Humans were supposed to be weak. Children were supposed to be helpless. Yet here they were, alive, safe, and moving freely through space. The realization struck Krelth like a hammer. Humans were not fragile. Courage, intelligence, and determination made them far more powerful than appearances suggested. His panic deepened. The lesson was clear and it could not be ignored. Humans, especially when protecting those they loved, were a force that could not be controlled or predicted. On the human ship, the children began to relax slightly. They had faced fear and danger, but they had survived. David whispered quietly to the others, "We have done it. We are safe." Claire hugged her doll, her small body trembling but smiling faintly. Ryan looked around at the crew, proud of their courage. Even the smallest ones felt a sense of accomplishment. Fear had been strong, but courage had been stronger. Humans had survived impossible odds. Humans had shown that bravery, intelligence, and determination could overcome even the most powerful enemies. Ethan and Lisa prepared the next steps. The human fleet would take the children safely home, avoiding alien patrols. Every crew member understood the importance of caution, but they also knew that the hardest part was over. The children were alive, the aliens were confused and panicked, and the humans had proven their strength. Even in the vast emptiness of space, courage could shine brighter than fear. Humans had demonstrated that strength was not measured by size, weapons, or technology, but by bravery, intelligence, and the will to act. Back on the alien transport, General Krelth's panic had reached its peak. Officers moved frantically, trying to recover the situation. Sensors were checked, patrols adjusted, but nothing worked. The humans had vanished, leaving only reports of their escape. Krelth's massive hands shook slightly as he realized that humans, even children, could act with precision, intelligence, and courage that no alien had expected. The general's mind raced. Humans had shown him a truth he could not ignore. Underestimate them at your own peril. The galaxy would remember this lesson, and Krelth would not forget the fear that humans had inspired. The human fleet moved closer to friendly space. Communication channels opened with other human ships and colonies, reporting the successful rescue. Relief spread through the fleet. Ethan and Lisa smiled faintly, proud of the children, the boarding team, and the human courage that had made the impossible possible. The children, once frightened and helpless, had become symbols of bravery. Claire, David, Ryan, and the others had faced fear with courage. Their actions had inspired not only the humans who rescued them, but also every person who heard of their bravery. Krelth watched helplessly as the humans disappeared into safe space. His officers looked to him for orders, but no plan could undo what had happened. Humans had acted faster, braver, and smarter than the aliens could predict. Children had survived. Courage had triumphed over fear. Intelligence had triumphed over planning. And the lesson was clear. Humans, no matter how small, were not to be underestimated. The general's confidence was gone. Fear had replaced certainty. And the humans, small and clever, had already won the victory that mattered most. Inside the human ship, Ethan spoke quietly to the children. "You have shown what it means to be brave. Remember this courage. It will stay with you always." David nodded, understanding the depth of their accomplishment. Claire smiled faintly, still tired but proud. Ryan adjusted his small notebook, recording the journey, knowing that their courage had mattered. The boarding team shared quiet smiles, proud of the children and the mission. Human hearts had triumphed. Courage had overcome fear. Intelligence had overcome strength. And the children had shown the galaxy that humans could never be underestimated. Far away, the alien fleet regrouped, sensing the loss but unable to act. Krelth realized that the humans had not only survived but had outsmarted them at every step. The children were safe. The humans had shown that courage and intelligence were more powerful than size or weapons. The aliens could plan and fight, but human bravery was unpredictable. For the first time, Krelth admitted to himself that humans were a species that could not be controlled, a species that could inspire fear even in the strongest generals. The human ship approached the border of human space. Communication channels opened to welcome the rescued children home. Ethan and Lisa guided the children carefully, explaining that they were safe now, that fear was behind them, and that courage had carried them here. David smiled faintly, understanding that their bravery had saved them. Claire hugged a small blanket, Ryan adjusted the supplies, and the smallest children looked around in wonder. Fear was still remembered, but courage was stronger. Humans had survived impossible odds. Humans had shown the galaxy their strength. Krelth's panic slowly turned to grudging respect. Humans had shown him courage beyond expectation. Children had survived against trained soldiers and powerful technology. He could not deny it. Fear and respect filled his mind. Humans were clever, brave, and unpredictable. He realized that in the future, humans would not be ignored. They were a species capable of remarkable bravery. Even children could teach a lesson that generals and fleets could not anticipate. The galaxy had learned that human courage was real, unstoppable, and unforgettable. On the human ship, the children rested. David whispered quietly to the others, reminding them that courage had carried them this far. Claire smiled faintly, feeling relief and pride. Ryan adjusted the notebook, recording the journey and their bravery. Ethan and Lisa watched quietly, proud of the children and the human courage that had made the mission possible. Humans had survived. Humans had triumphed. Courage had won. Intelligence had guided them. And the lesson would be remembered across the stars. Underestimate humans at your own risk. Even the smallest and youngest could be brave beyond measure. As the human fleet returned to human space, the stars stretched endlessly around them. The children had survived, the boarding team had acted with precision, and the alien general had learned a lesson in fear and respect. Humans were clever, brave, and unstoppable when protecting those they loved. The galaxy would remember this day. Children had shown courage, humans had shown intelligence, and aliens had learned a truth they could not ignore. Bravery, cleverness, and courage could overcome the greatest power. Humans had proven it. Ethan looked at the children, smiling faintly. "You have all done something remarkable," he said quietly. Lisa nodded. "You have shown courage that the galaxy cannot forget." The children held onto each other, tired but proud. David whispered to the others, "We have survived. We have won in our own way." Claire smiled faintly. Ryan nodded, understanding that their small actions had mattered greatly. Humans had survived against impossible odds. The aliens had learned their lesson. Courage, intelligence, and determination had triumphed. The children had taught the galaxy what it meant to be human. The stars shone silently around the returning human fleet. The children rested, the humans celebrated quietly, and the aliens, far away, felt fear and respect. The General Krelth would not forget this day. Humans were not fragile. Children were not helpless. Courage, intelligence, and bravery were unstoppable forces, and the galaxy would remember. Humans, no matter how small, could face fear, overcome danger, and show strength beyond measure. The children had survived. Humanity had triumphed. The lesson was written in courage, and it would last forever.